Helmut, Professor Schulen, thank you very much for inviting me to this meeting. And I have to talk about the topic which says old and new effective strategies for LDL cholesterol reduction. But I have to admit I am not a lipidologist. I do not understand a lot about lipids. I'm a clinical cardiologist doing non-invasive and invasive studies. So I first of all refused to talk to this topic, but Kurt convinced me I have to do this. Helmut, Professor Schulen asked me, can you shorten your talk a little bit? We are behind, you are tired, you want to go for dinner. So if Helmut asked me this, of course I will try it. So I have a short version actually of my talk. Yes, you all know old strategy is statins, plus and minus ezetimibe. New strategies, PCSK9 inhibitors, and you're all aware of this. And the second question this session is called how to avoid complications with pharmacotherapy. And I have the answer, it's easy. If you want to avoid the complications, don't prescribe them. Encourage your patients, what they do anyway, if you ask them, take red yeast rice instead. So I think I have answered the question, and this is it. I can finish my talk now, if you agree. Okay. Or do you want to hear a little bit more?
A little more.
Okay. I just want to hear this. Well, first of all, interesting, when I was reading a little bit about red yeast, it is not so harmless. Actually, it also has complications, and it says, according to an Italian study, many patients over 30 years, muscle injury and liver damage has been described. So red yeast rice is not really the solution of avoiding complications. So I have put together, don't be surprised now, a lot of questions with quick answers. So if we talk about LDL cholesterol, what about total cholesterol? What about triglycerides? What about HDL cholesterol? What about LPA? What about ApoB? And then of course, why do we focus on LDL cholesterol? And then we'll talk a little bit about advantages and limitations of statins. What is the role of ezetimibe? And when should we prescribe PCSK9 inhibitors to come to some practical recommendations? But I will try to do it quick as I promised anyway. So what about total cholesterol? I found this interesting thing here with the Time cover page. Between 1984 and 1999, you see that considerable change was done. So from the problem, there was actually a solution. But total cholesterol, why do we talk about total cholesterol? In the guidelines, it is used only for risk assessment. So it's nice to have it to estimate the risk, and of course you know the score, the score actually from ESC, and here the total cholesterol is the parameter you use. I personally tell you this is too complicated for me. I'm a simple guy, so we use, or I personally use very often the calcification risk score, which gives you an overall risk assessment, and I think there are many studies showing that this is a very valid method. It goes easy, fast, and you immediately recognize the high-risk patients and differentiate it from the low-risk patients. So next question, what about triglycerides? In the guidelines, there is no target. There is not a goal for the triglycerides. So if there's no target, why do you measure it? Well, of course, high triglycerides, but you need some more genetic surroundings to continue with this. And anyway, there is no specific drug to treat LPA. Statins, of course, but to treat the global risk. And lipoprotein apheresis is the only very effective way, if nothing else, reduces the risk. What about ApoB? ApoB I've put together here in one slide. It's very nice to have. It reflects all ApoB containing lipoproteins, which is a lot. ApoB is reliable even if you may have wrong measurements with high triglycerides, but there are limitations. It is not a primary target in randomized trials. Again, we have no target value. It is not included in the risk algorithms, and the measurement is expensive and generally not available. So LPA is really for the lipidologist, for the specialist, not for the average cardiologist, I would say. So why do we focus on LDL so much? Cardiologists only talk about LDL. Well, you know these figures. This is the brand new, just published in the European Heart Journal a couple of weeks ago. And you all know these figures. And the more I look at the figure, I'm really fond of this, because it really shows you that the lower the LDL, the better. And here's another figure from the same publication, here differentiating between primary and secondary prevention. So there is something in it. And I found this in one of the meetings here. Eugene Braunwald, our most famous cardiologist of the world, he said there are two things. You can never be too rich or to have too low LDL cholesterol. I think that says it all. And really that's the summary of all these trials. What are we now? Of course, you know, we are lowering LDL cholesterol. We are lowering it with statins. But what are the advantages of statins? And just because it's already late in the evening, I wanted to show you some things to wake you up. Well, these two guys, Goldstein and Brown, probably most of you don't know them. I actually didn't know them too. They got the Nobel Prize for discovering the LDL receptor. This is really a major breakthrough in all the things we have today. It is thanks to them. Who actually was discovering the statins? It was the Japanese. It all comes from Japan. And unfortunately, he did not get the Nobel Prize. I think maybe someday he will. He really deserved it. And he discovered the statins, or the predecessors of the statins, in a mushroom or in a fungus, Penicillium citrinicum. I have no idea how he got the idea of looking which penicillium is inhibiting the cholesterol synthesis, but he did it. It's just fantastic. This slide shows you just very schematic what statins do. Statins increase the density of LDL receptors in the liver. Actually, it's very similar to PCSK9 inhibitors. We do the same, total different pathway, but increasing the LDL receptor density, this is a very effective approach to decrease LDL cholesterol. Well, this slide here shows you all these trials which are so important in the big statin area, and of course we cannot go, for the sake of time, we cannot go through all these trials. Just for the younger people here, I want to remind you, 1994, this was a real breakthrough, the 4S trial, statins versus placebo. Of course it was positive breakthrough. It would be impossible to do such a trial today. It would be unethical to put these high-risk patients on a placebo group. Okay, what is the other study? I just want to show you for other people which are still young and don't remember, but 2004 is not so long ago. This was the PROVI trial. This was high-intensity statin versus lower statin, showing that the higher the dose, the better the outcome. Well, I will skip this for the sake of time. So LDL cholesterol is the only, with a class 1 recommendation, as a primary target for treatment. This is why it's so important. Well, just 3 numbers, please. You should keep in mind: high risk, medium risk, low risk. Just keep the numbers in your brain. It is 70, it is 100, and it is less than 115. So these are the 3 classes for the treatment of the patient. Well, this is an interesting trial here, or interesting observational study performed in Germany. They asked a lot of doctors, what do you think, how many patients, what is the percentage of patients at high risk or even at very high risk, which meet the guidelines below 70? So the average physician said, well, I think 60% of my patients are right on target, below 70 with LDL cholesterol. And here is what actually happened. It's incredible difference. So we are actually lying at ourselves. We are betraying ourselves. The patients do much worse than we think. So what is the problem? Is the doctor the problem, or is the patient the problem? Well, this just came out a couple of weeks ago. This is over 100,000 patients investigated, and the high adherence is only 50%. So only every second patient shows high adherence. Why? Let me skip this for the sake of time? Well, I think this is one of the answers. Patients fear side effects of statins. Many patients tell me, I don't want to take statins, there are so many side effects. And thousands are probably dying because they are afraid of the side effects of statins. And if you look at the real data, there are no critical side effects. You see, many patients tell me statins make cancer. It's not true. I have no idea how it comes into their brain. But there's absolutely no signal that statins create cancer. Of course, muscle symptoms, muscle pain. That's a problem. We all know that. And I wanted to show you some data of the GOS3 trial, which was a PCSK9 study, but you would say, hey, why do you show this now in the statin part of the talk? It had two phases, phase A and phase B. And phase B was actually evolocumab, PCSK9 inhibitor. But what I thought was even more interesting was the phase A. If you look at phase A, this is really clever design. Patients were double-blind to placebo or to statin and crossovers. So all patients had placebo and all patients had a statin, but the doctor did not know and the patient did not know. And if you look at the results, one of the results, I was surprised. 26% of the patients on placebo had intolerable muscle symptoms. How can it be? Something is really going wrong here. The doctor didn't know, the patient didn't know, and every fourth patient had to discontinue the study because the muscles are aching, intolerable. This actually has been corroborated by another study here. I will not go into details for the sake of time. Just published in May in the Lancet Online, where they say clearly only when the patients and the doctors were aware that statin therapy was being used and not when it was used was blinded. So patients, if they were blinded, the same thing with a higher patient number. If the patient knows and the doctor knows, he takes a statin, he gets muscle pain or she gets muscle pain. So how to avoid complications with pharmacology? So maybe the doctor should avoid the complication, not emphasizing all the time you will get muscle pain. So the doctor is a nocebo per definition. And another thing which is in the guidelines is that there are drugs. The topic is how to avoid complications with pharmacotherapy. There are drugs, calcium antagonists. Can you go back? Well, here. There are drugs which are often used together with statins. Amlodipine, for example, for treating high blood pressure. And these increase the likelihood of getting myopathy and other drugs as well. So we have to really take this table into our brains and avoid amlodipine with statins, because sometimes patients get muscle pain, we don't know why, maybe because we added amlodipine to the patient. So in pharmacotherapy with statins, the physician is the key problem. That's my conclusion. But then in the future, we don't need statins anymore. You know that researchers just working on a jab, on vaccination against coronary artery disease, and these will solve the problem. No statins anymore, everybody gets once a year only this injection, and everything will be fine. And which country is working on this? Austria, you see? Austria, so of course, congratulations to your country. You are really changing the world with the vaccination. Ezetimibe, only one slide. We remember IMPROVE-IT study. The problem with IMPROVE-IT, ezetimibe, was it took 7 years to show that it works. Okay, it works, but only after 7 years. That's a long discussion. Well, but at least it's good. So last but not least, what about the PCSK9 inhibitors? So we come to the post-statin era. We are living now in the post-statin era. Well, the whole thing started with familial hypercholesterolemia. I mean, these are terrible pictures, and of course one of the first patients investigated with PCSK9 inhibitors were with familial hypercholesterolemia, in this case with heterozygotes, not with homozygotes, but still. And of course it worked with lowering incredibly low numbers of LDL cholesterol. For the sake of time, of course, we cannot go into detail. Another one was combo, or this combo with alirocumab, And again, let me skip this, very effective, you all know this. Well, of course, with alirocumab, we do not have any primary endpoint with clinical endpoint, so this will be the Odyssey outcome study. It will take probably the end of next year until we get this data. Well, but we have good clinical primary endpoint data with the other PCSK9 inhibitor. As you know, with evolocumab, the Fourier trial, I do not have to show you all these results because you know them. I just want to emphasize here, look at this. It says March 17, 2017. This was when Fourier was presented and there was a real hype going on. Yes, now we have the data. There was only one part in the world which was not really hype, and this was the stock market. With these positive results of evolocumab, the stocks went down. And the question is, what happened here? Incredible. So the study was good, but the problem with this study is that they have investigated patients which really, in my opinion, don't need the PCSK9 inhibitor because they already had a very low 90 LDL cholesterol. So are these the patients I would give PCSK9 inhibitor? The answer is no. Okay, interesting to conclude the PCSK9 inhibitors, how to avoid complications. I mean, I look at this table every time, it is just incredible. There are absolutely no side effects. There is no complication with PCSK9 inhibitors. If you look here at the data, of course, a little bit more injection site reactions, but all the other parameters are the same in the placebo group as in the PCSK9 inhibitor. So this is like a miracle drug, extremely effective and no side effects. It's too good to be true, probably. Okay, to conclude the talk, what are the practical recommendations, take-home messages? Of course, we should always emphasize the modification of lifestyle. This is said very easy, and I found this table a couple of weeks ago in the JACC journal. Very interesting. It recommends don't eat eggs, it increases cholesterol, and be aware that even some vegetarian or plant products are not really recommendable. So this is my conclusion here. Of course, first is the modification of lifestyle. The next step, as you know, is statins, then statins plus insulin. But not in the Fourier population, but in this population where patients just with the maximum possible statin ezetimibe dose do not get the target values like in the guidelines, then we should really add PCSK9 inhibitors. If that doesn't help, then LDL-FR, as you said. With this, I hope we will all be over at least 100 years old with a life which is beautiful. And how far can we go? And this is my last slide now. You probably read this, that probably the oldest person in the world died at age 117. So this is about 120 is about the age we can make it. What is her secret? Well, first of all, she was single, no husband, no trouble, you see. And she had a diet. She had a special diet. And what was her diet to become 170 years old? Each day, 2 eggs. Thank you.